Alright, so you're gonna hold it like at this level and just talk into it, okay?
Oh, my butt.
Alright, so welcome to an outdoor episode of my podcast, An Com Chua. My name is Thomas, the host. This is Nathan. Nathan, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Nathan. I'm Thomas's colleague. I work out and I'm also a soccer player.
Awesome.
And yeah.
On today's episode of An Com Chua, because Nathan is Korean, I've only got about maybe 4 or 5 Korean friends growing up. The most I know about Korea is very basic stuff like kimchi, Korean barbecue. Got my notes here. Stews, kimchi, banchan, kimchi fried rice. Having you on this episode, I would like to talk more about Korean food, Korean culture, Korean food in Sydney. Later on, we're going to talk about food preservation. So about how food preservation is used in Korea and even in Vietnam. Okay, so I'll provide insight for Vietnam. From my first impressions of Korean culture in Sydney, obviously I'm missing a lot, right? There's a lot more to Korean culture than what people normally know.
Yeah, of course.
Yep, so can you elaborate more on that?
I think Korean food and Korean culture is really based on history. So historically, Korea wasn't the most wealthiest, and it was very poor. Like it was as poor as Ghana back then. So lots of food had to be preserved for long term, so that they can eat it whatever they wanted after, not like within a day or a week, but like months and maybe a year. So I think the most symbolic one is kimchi. Fermented cabbage, lots of nutritional values. We didn't know that back then, but we just had it. So one way to store it was to put it underground when it's winter, so it's preserved like a fridge, because we didn't have fridges back then. And also other vegetables like beans. I don't know if you eat it. Shallots, we fermented shallots too.
Yeah. We so for Vietnamese, we don't ferment it. We put pickles, so we do pickle it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This way you say you store your fermentation underground is very similar to certain countries in Europe.
Yeah.
So they've got root cellars. Or the snow hits, what they would do is they would get all their canning done and all their root vegetables, carrots, potatoes, and they'll store underground as well.
Yeah.
Because it's cooler than to last for the winter, right?
Yeah.
So that comes back to I've said my theory before of fish sauce Asia and soy sauce Asia. So you can draw a line across Asia and then you'll get to fish sauce Asia and soy sauce Asia. So fish sauce Asia is Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, which is warmer.
Yeah.
And soy sauce Asia
us.
is Japan,
Korea,
Korea,
China.
and China. Yeah.
Yeah,
The guys who've hosted the Olympics.
Yeah.
So jungle Asia and fancy Asia.
I think something else you can draw a comparison, right? Lots
Yeah.
of people say this. You see how in Europe there's cheese? It's fermented, it's got bacteria that's healthy for you. Kimchi is the equivalent in Korea if you were to make a comparison. That's how we see it. That's how some people see it nowadays because kimchi and Korean culture is very widespread.
Yeah.
That's one way that you can look at it, and one way the viewers can look at it as well.
Yeah, so that's the history of food culture is mostly preservation, right?
Yeah.
So you obviously when we had long winters then,
Yeah.
you had to keep food.
Oh, and also something that you can probably mention that we can share is lots of people think Korean barbecue is a common thing, right?
Yeah.
Like I mentioned back then, Korea wasn't the most wealthiest. We didn't have
Yeah.
meat.
No meat, correct.
So we used livestock for farming. It was like a tool, it was like a equipment.
Yeah.
So Korean barbecue is like a newer thing with the economic growth. If you go to like Korean restaurants, if you look at the banchan, the side dishes,
Yeah.
it's all very vegetable based and it's all very fermented based. So that's where the
Culture
origin
comes
comes
from, right?
from.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think there's a slight, I wouldn't say misconception, but a misspread of information. Korean culture, Korean cuisine is very vegetable based,
Yeah.
rice, vegetables, and sometimes like fermented. I don't know if you have it. Like we have acorn jelly, like fermented acorn jelly, those kind of things.
I think we do have that. So for
I'm pretty sure you do because I
we
saw it on
I've seen
YouTube. Yeah.
With Vietnamese food, we've had outside influences. So mostly
Yeah.
I'd say Chinese and French. So the only thing I know that influenced Korean food was when the Americans were there after the war, and they had spam. Spam was widespread,
military
right?
stew, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Military spam is like. So I think in Lunar New Year holidays or any holidays, people actually gift each other spam in Korea. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
spam,
Yeah.
cooking oil, and there's one more thing that I forgot. Oh, rice cakes.
Yeah.
Like rice cakes with bean filling, beans.
Would you say Korean food has a lot of Chinese influence, or maybe even Japanese influence, because quite close to each other?
I mean, some people would deny it, but Korean food and Japanese food actually comes from Chinese origins.
Yeah.
Like you see how China has the east,
Great country,
west,
number one.
east, west, south, north, like the different directions, right?
Yeah.
Like south is like sweet, oily
Yeah.
food. North is spicy food. I think north is spicy.
Yeah.
East is salty. I don't know the actual details, but it's got that. So Korea's got a lot of the spicy taste, as you know, with tteokbokki, kimchi. Just because we eat a lot of spicy food. Like we literally live for spicy food. Whereas Japanese food is very light because they're in the islands. But I'm pretty sure, like historically, we've had a lot of Chinese influences, like Vietnam as well. Like it's all spread from that
course, of
massive
course.
country.
So
You can talk to Jason about it.
of course. So back to spicy food and preservation. So for kimchi, right? I know it's a big family get together.
Yeah.
Do you guys does that actually happen? As a family, you get together and you make kimchi at the start of the season?
It used to be.
Yep.
Now, I mean, because we have a lot of things nowadays, we make rice cakes, we make pancakes, we make desserts. But like I still do it. I sit with my aunties, my mother, my grandma.
Mhm.
It's a common thing for families to gather and make food together because it's a big thing. It's a
Yep,
good way
yep.
to bond and just celebrate like New Year's,
Uh-huh.
just public holidays
So
in
for
general.
the Vietnamese perspective, right? We obviously don't make kimchi. At start of family gatherings or barbecues, all the aunties and mamas will get together and they'll roll spring rolls, or they'll make
The fried ones or the rice paper
both,
ones?
both either or, right? So
Right.
they'll roll spring rolls, or they'll make the pork skewers, the nam nuong.
Oh yeah.
So during that time, it is bonding, but the amount of shit that gets exchanged at that table or the gossip must be insane. So is there a lot of gossip exchanging? Is there a lot of gossip exchanging when you guys make kimchi as well?
I'm pretty sure all Asian countries, all Asian women, right?
Yeah.
Even if they don't, without intentionally.
We can't
doing
generalize
it,
against women, bro. We get cancelled, mate.
Well, that's what happens in my family and my
Yeah.
friends' families. So you sit down,
Mm-hmm.
someone has to be on the plate, and everyone just roasts them, dices them. They make comments, but it's a way of bonding
Mm-hmm.
to us without us realizing.
Yep. All right, so there's actually so much more to talk about Korean food, but
Round two.
I don't want to keep my episodes too long. So let's go to my key questions for my guests. What would you say was your favorite childhood meal?
Kimchi,
Kimchi, nice.
like spicy
Mm-hmm.
cabbage kimchi, but it's a slightly different one because I'm from Seoul, right?
Yeah.
My father's from southern part, Jeollado.
Yeah.
And they make everything really spicy. So you add, I think it's Vietnamese chili, like the smaller ones.
Yeah.
We add that on
bird's
top
eye
of the,
chilies.
yeah. We add
Yeah.
that, more chilies, and we ferment it
Wow.
at least for a year. So
I've
that
had
there's
it.
a
It's
strong
fucking
taste.
spicy.
So we have that. So for me, that'll be the main one.
So your family's special recipe is the bird's eye chilies.
Bird's eye chilies, and there's my grandma makes she actually makes chili
Mm-hmm.
paste that we eat with Korean barbecue. That's also really good because you can make chili paste pancakes
Yep,
with
yep.
that. So that's my second one if I had to choose. Chili paste
And
pancakes.
I think I saw a content creator, Doobie Doobap. Her family, I think they use like fresh oysters as well.
Yeah, they
So
can.
each family has a different recipe, right?
But I think you and I talked about this before. Like
Yeah.
we started using fish sauce and the
Yeah.
3 crab sauce because it's really good.
3 crab sauce is what is
Yeah,
that?
so you can make adjustments as you go. Like,
Yeah.
that's why we live in the 21st century. We
Mm-hmm.
try new things. We add different ingredients to make things more flavorsome, more
Mm-hmm.
delicious. So that's the Vietnamese influence in our household at the moment.
Awesome. So, what's your family's go-to meal? Like you always have growing up. So like a staple.
Like
So what do you guys have? Like,
Usually eat?
Yeah, usually on on every dish. Like
So-
if you get together for family dinners, what would you have?
just our family,
Just
immediate
your
family.
Just your family.
Like it will literally be what we mentioned, like rice, but
Mm-hmm.
we won't eat just white rice because arthritis, osteoporosis. We'll add
Yeah.
black beans to it,
Uh-huh.
and also we'll
I've seen
have all the
those.
banchans like
Yeah.
kimchi,
Uh-huh.
fermented green shallots. Like it's very vegetable based. Like I don't eat as much meat unless I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
It's very vegetable based, and it's also there's not much oil or fried food. It's all very light,
Wow.
quick meals
That's
that we
kind of
eat.
opposite from like certain Chinese food, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. It sounds very healthy. What's the last meal that you've cooked?
The last one that I've cooked,
Yeah, last
I
meal you've
cooked I cooked rice cakes, so tteokguk.
Yeah.
So the ones that you see on YouTube that you eat in Korean
yeah.
dramas and just on YouTube, like the ones that you eat on Lunar New Year and New Year.
Nice.
So I made that for my girlfriend yesterday.
Any sauces with it when you made it?
Like when I cook it.
Yeah.
So
It's like a spicy sauce?
no, it's very light and bland.
Oh,
But
okay,
you have
okay.
to make your broth out of anchovies for at least 6 hours the day
Wow.
before to get it ready.
Anchovies, that's not for everyone, eh?
Is it?
Yeah, a lot of people don't like anchovies.
Like Asians.
It could be. But I know anchovies is in a quite. I love anchovies.
Yeah.
right? Yeah. All right. What's something that you want to learn to cook?
Banh mi.
Oh, banh mi. So
I love my Vietnamese food as you know.
Right. So I'm gonna come out and say it. The pork rolls in Australia are like terrible compared to pork rolls in Vietnam.
But it's so good when we got American pork roll is
It is good.
amazing.
It is good, but Vietnamese pork roll from Vietnam are next level. I'd say all Vietnamese, most Vietnamese food in Australia, I'd say is very comparable to Vietnam because they have very good produce. The only thing that's not as good as Vietnam is our pork rolls. The reason being is because in Australia we need value, right? So they
Yeah.
actually overload our pork rolls. It's so full. in Vietnam, their pork rolls is just much smaller portion, so it's very light, it's very palatable, and then they use a lot less filling, but it's so much more flavorful.
So like you're saying there's less vegetables, less meat.
Yep. So I wouldn't say there's less. I said there's the correct amount. In Australia, there's too much. So it's overwhelming. So we need to halve the portions and charge it for cheaper in Australia.
But same size bread.
I'd say it's just different. It's different. I can't explain it.
We should go to Vietnam.
I think something could be about it as well is when you make bread, right? The water of where you're making it from matters. So maybe the water in Vietnam could affect the bread compared to the water in Australia. That could be a thing as well.
We should go Vietnam and try it. Make a food vlog in Vietnam.
Yeah, man. I'm just doing podcasts, but vlogs are too much work. Podcasts are so much easier.
I'll do it.
All right. So, what's your favorite restaurant in Sydney, and what's your normal order? That's the last question.
Favorite restaurant.
If you can't think of a favorite restaurant, this stumps a lot of people. What's the most favorite place you've had in the last month, and what'd you order?
There's one place that I usually go to. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's a place that I usually go and recommend people to. Kepo Street Cafe in Redfern.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very Mediterranean-based brunch cafe where they make nice coffee. But there's one where they have beef tartare salad with avocado or raw tuna salad with avocado. Because I love my avocado and vegetables.
For the tuna, what type of tuna did they use?
They use bluefin.
Bluefin Toro?
Yeah, bluefin
Toro.
It's pretty.
How much was it?
Last time I went was like 25
That's
per
so
plate.
cheap for a bluefin Toro.
But you don't get much tuna. You get more vegetables and avocado. So
I see. Okay.
I recommend that if you really want to try good Mediterranean food,
tuna.
in my opinion.
Wow, I might have to try that for that price. That's insane.
Yeah.
All right, and that's it. Thanks, Nate, for being on the pod. You might
Round
have
two.
a part 2 with Chinese food.
You should do a cream post to end it.